checking, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas football YouTube channel. I'm Geoff Ketchum, joined by Anwar Richardson, who's got the Orange Bloods gear on today.
That's right, baby. It's the only gift I ever received from Orange Bloods and Rivals, I think.
You know, we do what we can.
Not enough, apparently. This thing's like 5 years old.
Well, you know, I bought you that one thing of vodka that you hated that one time.
It was like the pink Deep Eddies. It was Deep Eddies grapefruit, and you got chastised on the board for that as well.
And I was trying to do something nice, and it's what the person at the liquor store recommended, and I did. It totally failed. It is an Overreaction Monday. Do us a favor, hit the like button if the video is useful in any way, and maybe think about hitting that subscribe button. We've got lots of cool things planned for the Orange Bloods YouTube experience over the course of the coming weeks and months. Stay tuned. Announcements shall be coming. But it is an Overreaction Monday, Anwar, so I've got a few things to overreact to.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we need to do a solid to our viewing public, our watchers, our subscribers. We asked them over the weekend, give us your names. On Friday, we did a video discussing Bijan Robinson, and I don't think either one of us completely thought Reggie Bush as a comparison, which came up at Big 12 Media Day when Steve Sarkisian talked a little bit about their styles. It wasn't like he said he exactly reminds me of Reggie Bush, but the name alone made my my eyebrows popped up like I was The Rock. So, Anwar, I asked everybody to put in the comments the guy that they think Bijan Robinson most reminds them of, because I wondered if we're just not watching the first Bijan Robinson. That as a guy that loves to make player comparisons, I've had a hard time coming up with the right Bijan Robinson comparison. Are you ready for the full list?
I want to hear it. I was gonna pull it up, but I want to hear them. Let's just tell me.
Okay. In alphabetical order, these are the names that I pulled out of the YouTube comments. Now, we got stuff from Twitter. We got stuff from Orange Bloods. There were a lot of names. You mentioned Garrison Hurst literally as we were getting ready to go on the air. Yeah. And I was like, didn't see that one. So there will be, I apologize to those of you who put recommendations or suggestions in other areas and I missed. But in alphabetical order,
okay,
it's like 20 plus names. Are you ready?
Oh wow. Okay.
Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Le'Veon Bell.
Okay.
Cedric Benson. Jamal Charles. Zeke Elliott.
Oh.
Marshall Faulk. Priest Holmes. Josh Jacobs. Maurice Jones-Drew. Alvin Kamara. Christian McCaffrey, LaShawn McCoy, Darren McFadden, DeMarco Murray, Walter Payton.
Okay. So did someone just get on a Bleacher Report list of best running backs and just list them all?
Clinton Portis, Gale Sayers, Emmitt Smith, Fred Taylor, LaDainian Tomlinson, Ricky Williams, and somebody submitted the ultra rare Saquon Barkley plus Priest Holmes super baby.
God.
But I have to say the best one did come on Twitter from my perspective. I thought, and he's a really good follow on Twitter. I would recommend everybody in terms of, I think UT fans who have made names for themselves as follows on Twitter, David Allen, who goes by @doc_Texas. He tweeted to both of us that Bijan's comp was a young pre-injury Willis McGahee out of Miami. And I have to say, I watched the Willis McGahee video. It may have been like his draft video that ESPN posted when he was drafted. It's like a 2-minute clip.
Mm-hmm.
It does look a lot like Bijan Robinson.
He nailed it. Like he absolutely nailed it. It was, and by the way, he is a good follow of people who've made the name themselves. Like Chris Bennett is like the OG, right? Of making a name for yourself. Kyle has made a name for himself. I don't know.
Oh, we can't go through the full list.
Oh, there's like three. There's three.
Today, David Allen gets the shout out.
Okay, David Allen. But David Allen, my man with the blue avatar. I forget what movie that's from that he's got it from. I thought that Willis McGahee was spot on. Like, I thought that was a spot on analysis, a spot on comparison, especially when he put the supporting video clip with it. Out of all the guys that were named, like some of them I just didn't see. Like I don't see Emmitt Smith at Florida. That's like, he was like a basic north-south kind of guy. He didn't have cutting ability. And I'm gonna go through all the lists. David Allen, props to you on an Overreaction Monday. Willis McGahee definitely is the one that sticks out.
By the way, his avatar is from Watchmen, the TV show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was the HBO. It was HBO.
Regina King's
masterpiece. Yes.
And one of my favorite shows from the last couple of years.
They never did a second one, though, did they?
What's that?
They never did. Did they do a part 2 of that series?
No, as it stands, that looks like a potential one-off.
Yeah, horrible. That's horrible. That show was amazing.
I kind of hope that, I've seen so many bad sequels that Watchmen was almost perfect. It was so good. But yeah, I would definitely be down for a season 2. I could go either way. Sometimes I see something that's so good, I don't need to see anything else. But I'd be down for a Watchmen 2. I'm curious where they would go with that. All right. You ready for my overreaction on a Monday?
Let's do it.
It's going to be you guessed it before we came on. Anybody that's watching the show, we had to mention Chris Beard, the Texas basketball program. And Steve Sarkisian, Anwar, is the one with the all gas, no brakes theme. That's his official motto. So much so that I think they may have trademarked it, and they've got it in front of barrels on official visits and Hobby Lobby lights. And people are taking photos in front of them.
Hobby Lobby.
They are Hobby Lobby lights. But the kids seem to like it. Like I've bagged on the Hobby Lobby lights, but they keep using it, so the kids must like it, right? What the hell do I know? I'm a 40-something-year-old man that hadn't taken a picture in front of Hobby Lobby lights in decades. Okay. I don't know. But he's all gas, no brakes. And yet in recruiting, there's a little bit of brakes. It's not applied by the Texas coaching staff, by the kids that are recruiting them. It has been, football is reminding us that there's a process. And Chris Beard is reminding us, to hell with the process. Yeah. If you are good enough, if you truly are all gas, no brakes, add some nitrous to that. It doesn't matter that you don't have momentum. It doesn't matter that the last decade your program has been stuck in some sort of weird purgatory and they never see the Sweet 16 ever. It doesn't matter that elite kids haven't seen you win forever. If you are good enough, you can make your own rules. And Chris Beard, in 100, I think today would be 109 days. But if we go back to what happened over the weekend, where they picked up 2 commitments, one from arguably the single best college basketball player that entered the transfer portal this season, Marcus Carr, and then a potential 5-star point guard in the 2022 class that would be his replacement in a year when Marcus Carr is no longer in the program. We've just seen Chris Beard do something I've never seen it. I've never seen in almost 100 days and some change, an incoming coach, really at any school, but the University of Texas for certain. I've just never seen anybody ever come in and do what he's done in terms of immediately building. Texas is going to be top 5 preseason. And when he started, I think he had 3 players on his roster. And he's completely remade it. He's got people talking about him being a Final Four team this year. In year 1, they are national championship candidates, and I don't think anybody even doubts that. I've seen Kansas basketball fans all weekend long say, oh, we're going to have to keep an eye on this Texas thing. We finally have somebody worthy of coming after us for the crown, although Baylor would probably say we took the crown last year, so come and get it off of our hands. But he's got Texas basketball at a place that I do think my overreaction is it kind of makes Steve Sarkisian look, I don't want to say bad. I don't know what the right word is, but there are reasons / excuses for why Texas isn't quite 180 miles and running. And Chris Beard has no excuses. He's just doing the damn thing. And it's a fascinating little like contrast to what Texas fans, I think, are some are slightly frustrated that it hasn't quite happened as fast for Steve Sarkisian. And the presence of Chris Beard, I think, makes everybody on campus, but especially Steve Sarkisian, it puts whoever the football coach is on notice that, hey, man, just do it. Save all of the excuses. Don't tell us about the labor pains. Just give us the baby. Chris Beard is giving Texas fans the baby. And you almost don't want to talk about it because it stands out so much, I think, by comparison to what the football program's having to deal with right now, which is a whole lot of the big names saying, man, we like you, but if you want to get out of the friend zone, we need to see it. And Chris Beard doesn't play by those rules at all.
The thing about Chris Beard, which is so fascinating, you put a lot on the table, is, he inherits, when you talk about similarities, he inherits a mediocre basketball program that really, it underachieved way more than the football program has underachieved. We're talking about a program that's not known to be, over the last few years, getting to the tournament. You talk about the highlight over the last few years was winning the NIT. Like that has been like the biggest thing. And it's been also frustrating to see every year Texas has a kid that's a first round pick, and yet it doesn't seem to yield results, that's on the field. And so it would be very easy for Chris Beard to have come in here and say, look, it's not a basketball program, they don't really win. So, who's going to the, it's guys going to go to the pros, but it's the Big 12, how hard that is. It'd be real easy for that to happen. And what you're seeing is a guy who, one, is clearly a badass recruiter. Two, we're seeing a guy who clearly is respected amongst college basketball players in that realm of kids who got recruited by him at some point, have a relationship with him, familiar with him, whether it's the kid themselves, the coaches, something to that effect. And he's come in, and like you said, he's having like an instant to the point where like, holy crap, like you're saying, that's what you expect a first-year coach at Texas to do, right? To come in and make basketball. He's making basketball into, honestly, the biggest offseason story, which, Ketch, you've been around this place. This ain't a basketball program. People celebrate it when it goes well, but it's not the thing that we're talking about in July. It's not really a conversational topic. And so Sark faces, if you're comparing, like, it's like, oh, well, what's he doing? And then you look back and he faces that task of, okay, they're not killing it in recruiting as of this moment, but trying to get some momentum. And I started thinking about it. He would almost have to, I started doing some research, got first-year coaches in the impact they have, because every first-year coach, Ketch, always wants to compare themselves to Nick Saban. Well, Nick Saban didn't win 10 and 11 games in year one, as if everyone then becomes Nick Saban in year two. He would have to have, but the guys who excelled that we remember in year one was like Terry Bowden back in Auburn, who inherits like a 2-win team and then turns them into a powerhouse to follow in his first year. Gus Malzahn, what he was able to do, and to a certain degree, but not as much. But Ryan Day at Ohio State is a guy that inherits a program, wasn't super down or anything like that, but he had some questions about, who Ryan Day was going to be. And all of a sudden, all they do is just kick ass all the time. Like, I think from a result standpoint, that's where, your head has to start thinking about other guys who've done that. And then can he do something similar with not being in that bad of a situation?
So Anwar, what do you think this means for Sarkeesian? What does it mean? I mean, it's an overreaction Monday, so that's part of what we're doing, right? Yes. And I wouldn't say it. Does it increase the pressure at all? Like, what would it mean? Let's forget about what Chris Beard does. I mean, what Sarkeesian and the guys do this year. If Beard goes to the Final Four in year one, what does that do to the way people interpret the football job and like the demands and what needs to be happening? Because they're not the same sports. You have to be careful about comparing apples to oranges. But I think you nailed it when you said he didn't inherit the Texas football program. He inherited the Texas basketball program.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have the new arena yet.
No.
And it just hasn't mattered. And from my perspective, it's a reminder of if Urban Meyer had been the hire, he's not being told this summer, let me just see how it looks on the field in the fall, and then I'll be interested.
Yeah.
I think Chris Beard is proof, really, that in any sport, there are rare hires that when you make them, they can change everything in the blink of an eye. And most mere mortals aren't like that. And I think that the list in football might even be smaller than basketball. I don't know how to completely do it, but for your money, this does what to the football job and the pressure around it?
I think there's a difference. Like you said, Chris Beard, and I'll get to the question, is proven. Like he's a proven commodity at Tech. And so everyone knows what he can do, what he has done. And no matter, and Steve Sarkisian is not a proven commodity, not as a head coach. Okay. As an assistant coach, sure. But anyone who's recruiting against him will say, he did that at Bama. Let's go through the list of OCs who were good at Bama, and we've gone through this before. So you can go to Loxley before him; they had the #1 ranked offense at Bama when he was there, and then you could go to Kiffin before him at that, and they'll say, okay, Sarkeesian's just following that. He's coaching with the GOAT. Like everyone looks good coaching with the GOAT. What that does for me, though, it does put pressure on Sarkeesian to win in year one. I just think that the pressure to win in year one is greater than maybe a lot of people realize, because if it's just an so okay year from a recruiting perspective, you know how I love the recruiting, Catch. From a recruiting perspective, it puts you behind, because we've done this before, Catch. We've done let's just wait and see. Kids have been waiting and seeing, and we know what happens when it gets to that point. And they'll tell you like, hey, that's the third coach in 7 years. They finished with 8 or 9 wins, really. And what we're seeing from a recruiting perspective, we know Alabama comes in, takes whatever they want. We know Ohio State comes in, takes whatever they want. And we know Clemson has had the ability to come in and get the guys that they want. We're seeing Oregon coming in here and starting to pluck out guys. You're seeing other schools that are starting to come in here and making like a little footprint here in Texas. And that's going to make it just a little bit more difficult. So I think that look, if I can tell Steve Sarkisian anything, I would say this: they love you now until your first loss. That everyone's going to love you. The honeymoon will officially end after your first loss. And then at that point, you're spending the entire time trying to recapture that spark, right? It's just, it's the dating, the courtship is great. And then you get into the marriage, and that's when the real work starts. And so Bijan Sarkisian, understand, like, everyone loves all gas, no brakes. They love all gas, no brakes until you lose. And then there will be a play on words that you're not going to like. Everyone thought Mensa sounded great, Catch. It was Mensa. We got Mensa. Mensa's all amazing. Mensa's awesome. And then what happened after Maryland? Mensa was used against him as a tool, right? So I think the pressure that Sarkeesian will face in year one will be greater than what Tom faced in year one. It will be greater than what Charlie faced in year one, because everyone comes in saying, okay, you should have instant results. And you're seeing success at other programs here at Texas. The baseball program has been very successful. You're seeing like what's the women's basketball program is doing. You're seeing what the men's basketball program is doing. They're winning in sports. The swimming, and I'm so sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. We can go down the list, but what that program has been for the longest of time, and there's so many programs. Go down the list. There's all the programs. So now we start talking about New South end zone. I'll shut up and say this: New South end zone. New coach, come from Bama, national title. People are saying we want to see it in year one. And if not, it's not going to be the best scene around here.
Two things. I just have to say this for the record. Okay. I can be a little bit of a petty bitch at times, just for the record. Okay. Just for the record. And it reminds me of in Charlie's first year, he had a meeting with Roger Goodell.
Oh yeah.
And we had tons of stories where we were first, and Anwar did a particularly good job of being first on. But we weren't the first people to report that he was meeting with Roger Goodell. And Texas fans went crazy. And I was lectured and told that I was just being spiteful when I dared to suggest, you guys realize that nobody's going to remember this Roger Goodell meeting by next week, that it's going to be about wins and losses. And it's great that Goodell cares about your core values and wants to talk to you about them, but it really isn't important. And it's funny because all these years later, I feel like people have forgotten that they went so gaga for Charlie. Like they want to act like they weren't really in on Charlie, that they saw it coming. And it was not like that.
It was not.
People were psychotic. And it's 7-8 years later, you're still kind of psychotic. And I think goes to your point of like, you better win. It also is an interesting contrast to what I think this Texas football team might be at the end of the year, when its quarterback has started 12 games, its coaching staff has really figured out its players, and the players have figured out their new coaches. I don't want to say this a lot because we say it every year. Oh, by the end of the season, Texas could be a team that nobody wants to play. But they could in theory. That you would think that the best version of Texas, barring injuries, would be 12 games later and not one game in. It's what makes Louisiana and Arkansas nervous in the beginning, because it's like, ooh, couldn't you just have Rice and Rice again in those opening games? Couldn't they just play Rice twice and like work out some kinks and then elevate it? And they won't get that. And so the football team and the schedule is judged so much harshly than we would see in basketball, where nothing that you do early in the season really matters, right? Like start off 0-6, but if you get into the tournament and do damage, nobody cares about that other stuff. It really is about how you finish and not how you get to the place where you finish. Yeah. And football is so different because, Texas could be a team, let's say even in the bowl game, where they win the bowl game big. But if it's coming off of an 8-4 year and that makes them 9-4, or if they go 9-3 but it's the Alamo Bowl again and you beat the same level of type of competition, it's just different. And the thing that Chris Beard will have going for him is if he does lose a couple of games early in the season, people will be like, oh, there's a bunch of new players and they're working out the kinks. It takes time. Football doesn't get the it takes time thing. It just no Texas fan is saying, well, it takes time. They're like, Tom went 7-3 last year, so let's go, all gas, no brakes. And I wonder if in the end his own slogan becomes problematic for him, just like the Mensa thing did with with Herman. It's like the first time it looks like you're kind of breaks, people are going to get real snot. Like, that will be a headline if Texas. Oh, yeah. I can already see it right now. Back page of the Dallas Morning News if they lose to Oklahoma in Dallas, all breaks, no gas kind of a thing. Like, see those headlines coming. And it just, again, we're repeating ourselves slightly here, or at least I am, but this job is not for the meek or the timid. Chris Beard is none of those things. And I don't think Steve Sarkisian is either, but he's not Chris Beard. And that process for recovery is just going to potentially look a little bit different. And, my overreaction today is in 6 months' time and 9 months' time, Chris Beard's shadow might eventually become a bit of a problem. Not just for Sarkeesian, but I think for any sports. If Texas has been good in the non-major sports, football and basketball have been in the dumps for a decade. The moment that one of them gets big, the bar for everybody changes. The problem with these other sports, when they have success, when the rowing team wins a national championship, nobody says, "Oh man, well now football better win." It just doesn't happen. But if basketball of other sports started to become known as the sport because of its success, I think it does unintentionally. It's not intended, but I don't know how there's any way to avoid. It does add a little bit of extra pressure to the football job to not get outperformed by the sport that most people only pay attention to once football season and recruiting season is over.
I mean, Ketch, what does it look like next year if the basketball team went to the Final Four, the baseball team went to Omaha, and we're talking about 8 or 9 wins for Texas in the regular season? I mean, it's right. It is. What does that look like?
It's a whole lot of, it's got to be better, and the thing is, we talked about this last week on where I've come to terms with this could be an 8-4, 9-3 type season. And it will mean they probably don't get Arch Manning, right? If they go 8-4, 9-3, they didn't do that thing that we think they would need to do to immediately become super impactful with we're talking about maybe the number one player in the country. Like, we're not aiming small here. Mm-hmm. And it might mean that then they go into next season and now you've got your returning starting quarterback coming back. You've got all your pieces mostly in place. Bijan comes back for his last year. You could really see 8-4, 9-3, then next year turning into the season that I think everybody really deep down wishes could happen this year. And that wouldn't be terrible because in 5 years, you could talk about, well, the big jump happened in 2 years. And then in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, it's just not a big deal anymore. But until you get there, there'll be lots of nerves, lots of people, I think, antsy because they want it so bad. They don't want to wait anymore. Mm-hmm. But I've kind of come to terms with the fact that what Texas needs to recruit elite of the elite talent might not happen this year. And then it might take them a couple of years before Sarkeesian is really putting together a top 5 level class. But if he does it the opposite way that Texas fans want, which is not recruiting first, but by development and team building first. He develops his quarterback. The quarterback grows. The team gets better. Then they compete for a championship, and then the recruits follow. That isn't what Texas fans want, but it may very well happen. And when you look at the quality of this staff and when you look at his history of developing quarterbacks, you feel like that should eventually happen. I just feel like everybody's got to realize what you want and what you demand versus what you often and most times get are so wildly different that it's going to take a little bit of maturity to not panic just because it doesn't happen exactly the way Chris Beard is showing us that it can happen.
So let's flip it for a second, Ketch. let's say there isn't a team meeting after week 2, right? Because the team meeting is always the sign that
players only, baby.
It's going downhill whenever you hear anything about a team meeting. That is my indication the season is over. Whenever you hear anything about a team meeting, because we had a meeting, we talked about it, we feel good. You just know, you're like, all right. I'll see you in Houston at the Texas Bowl. But let's flip it though, Ketch. Let's say the flip side, right? Because I think you and I are taking a more cautious approach, right? And I'm going to take that same approach. But let's flip it. Let's say for whatever reasons, Sarkeesian comes in and he's a difference maker. And what happens if the things that Tom Herman may have struggled in the small little details of a game is something that Sarkeesian has really mastered? And let's say him going into the lab at Bama totally like reshaped him. And so from an offensive perspective, he's getting guys involved, right? We've got Xavier Worthy that's being a standout as a freshman. And we've got all the other receivers, Joshua Moore. You go down the list of all the good receivers that are there, Troy O'Meary, right? Those guys are starting to look good. And then, and of course, obviously the big time, Jordan Whittington. So I don't want to forget him. To say he's doing well. And let's say all of a sudden, Ketch, maybe they lose to OU, right? But maybe they go ahead and beat Iowa State, right? They made that and they're able to knock that off. Again, the little things that they could have done. What does it look like then in this world where Sarkeesian comes in and it is a 10-win team? And I won't go 11 because 11's asking a lot, but 11's like, holy shit, like you're probably talking CFP stuff, right? But what if the flip comes in, and do you see a scenario, and this is my question, do you see a scenario where, hey, it actually could go extremely well? Could you talk yourself into that?
First of all, yeah, 11-1 means you're playing for the Big 12 championship, and the winner of that game, assuming Oklahoma's not 9-3 or 10-2, is probably going to the playoffs. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean, if he does, I think it just comes down for me. It's a talent issue and it's a readiness issue. You could forget all of the stuff that all the what ifs. I wouldn't even need them if you told me the quarterback play was going to be better than Sam Ehlinger this year, right? I've said this before. You let me know that Texas is going to have like a 165 quarterback rating for the season. I mean, they're playing in the Big 12 championship game. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. I don't need to hear Sark is a better game manager. I don't need to hear that the pass rush was there or the offensive line. I don't need to hear any of that. Tell me about the quarterbacks. Because if the quarterback's 165, they're playing in Dallas they're going back. Mm-hmm. If it's 145 or 150 or less, they're not.
Yeah.
And so this really, for me, comes down to, if you had Sark coaching last year's Texas team, I think they do better. I think they beat Iowa State. I think they play in the Big 12 championship game. I think all those things happen.
Did they beat Oklahoma?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit of me losing confidence in Sam. Okay. You're asking me at the end, do I think Sam in a second go round would beat Rattler, who was benched? Like the same Rattler that Texas, they'll never see that guy again. A guy that got benched in the middle of the game. That'll never happen to Rattler ever again. And so I don't know. But my core issue is when we say, well, look, this year they got good coaching. So they're not going to mess up and do all the things that Tom did. And I go, well, okay, but I still don't know about quarterback, and he can't make that happen. My guy is Hudson Card, and maybe he becomes the starter. But like, guys, Peyton Manning needed time to grow up. Vince Young needed time to grow up. Trevor Lawrence, even though he plays in a national championship game as a young player, it took him some time to evolve. And the same is going to be true whether it's Casey Thompson or Hudson Card. And it goes back to that thing where at the end of the season, this team might end up being really good, but how they get there is really tricky. And I don't know that their left tackle spot, it's kind of important. I mean, if we were to talk about from an NFL perspective, the three most important positions on the field: quarterback, left tackle, pass rushing monster.
Mm-hmm.
Texas lost those three guys. They lost Sam Ehlinger, which I think they can be better there, but they've lost an NFL left tackle in Sam Cosmi, and they've lost a guy that was their best defensive player a year ago. Their only impact player, their only pass rushing presence from a year ago in Joseph Osai, who's playing on Sundays now. And those players have not been replaced yet but I don't even care about left tackle and pass rusher. The quarterback position is very good. Texas playing in the Big 12 championship game, in my opinion. Very good. If it's just pretty good or good, they won't. And that, and it's weird that you take Sark's job and his ability to be good at it and this team success and put it in the hands of one player. But that's what this sport is. It's not an accident that all of the teams that were in the playoff last year had badass quarterback play. It's not like this. That's what this sport is now. And every year, 3 out of the 4 teams or more will get to the college football playoff because they had the best quarterback play. And so, and Texas has never had that. It's going to be season number 8. How many all Big 12 quarterbacks have you seen?
I don't think any.
How many championships have you seen?
Well, I know, definitely know. I
mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
They win the Big 12 last year if Sam takes the step that everybody thought a senior quarterback would take. 4th year, it's all set. The table's set. And statistically, he was the same guy as he was the year before. Sam was wildly weird from his sophomore year to junior year and senior year. His quarterback efficiency numbers over an entire season were within like a point or 2 of each other. Like by the end, Sam was exactly who he was. And there wasn't a consistent level that got above that. And Sarkeesian won't be here in 4 or 5 years if he doesn't get better quarterback play than Sam Ehlinger was able to give. That's why he was brought here. Do better than Tom and Sam were able to do, because nobody around here cares about pretty good.
It's interesting as you go. I was just thinking about it. I went through the list, wrote it down. So what I've seen since I've been here, in 2014, David Ash, Tyrone Swoops, Gerard Hurd, Shane Buechele, obviously Sam Ehlinger, Casey Thompson. Like that's of that, Casey, his performance in one game is arguably would put him top 2 on this list. I mean, just be honest. I mean, just out of
30 minutes of football is worth more than Tyrone Swoops' whole career. Bad, but that's fair.
And that wasn't even Tyrone's fault. Like Charlie understood after that first spring game. But Charlie never went into the grad transfer market, and he should have switched him to tight end where he should. And that clearly the NFL said he's a tight end. That's what you probably should have done. He probably would have gotten drafted and got some more guaranteed money. But I to your point, I mean, we think Oklahoma is Oklahoma because of Spencer Rattler. And that's just point blank. That's why you have faith in them. And that's why you thought they were vulnerable. And guess what? For the first 2 games of the season, they were vulnerable because he was struggling. He wasn't doing that great, And then, of course, he went on. He got better as the season went on. It became good. We have faith in that Iowa State's going to be good because of Brock Purdy. We believe that, okay, he's a good quarterback, arguably the top 2. You have faith that TCU could be potentially better because of Max Duggan. We're not saying that they're going to be in the top 2, but you feel like maybe TCU can improve because of that. So to your point, as we start thinking about the quarterback conversation, you could have all the good receivers in the world. I think you've won me over a little bit on your Bijan. What does that really matter? I think if we're good quarterback play, it means a lot. Bad quarterback play, it means nothing. So I'm with you on that. And so if you got good quarterback play, it's everything. And Bijan becomes a guy that we're talking about at the end of the year. potentially as one of the better running backs in the country. He's in a Heisman conversation. We're starting to talk. We're definitely like he's got one more year and then he's out. Stan Drayton, throw a parade for him, all those type of things. But that will have to do if you have good quarterback play. So I'm 100% with you. By the way, when I toss about to you, I do have one more overreaction before we close the show. So I just want to let you know.
Well, then give me the overreaction.
I think people make too much of this horns down thing and the penalty. And that became a thing after Big 12 media days. People were talking about it. Baker Mayfield, who loves to troll Texas, decides to do his 2 cents. I don't think people understand that Texas fans really don't give a damn about that. And I think if you ask any Texas fan, they would tell you that they don't even think it should be a penalty. They think it's just part of the game. It is what it is. Everyone, and then Texas fans always like it because they think we live rent-free in your head because you guys always want to do that at all times. You're always thinking about Texas. Texas fans don't care. But I think everybody else makes it out to be that Texas fans are really, really upset and they want penalties and they're whining and crying in their tea. And it's just not like that. I get them thinking, the officials thinking that's taunting and they don't want taunting involved. I think some things are just part of the game. You just leave it alone.
We've never talked about it. I mean, how many shows, podcasts, video casts, game review? I mean, that's the first time we've ever mentioned it in anything that we've ever done. So, and if people really cared, we'd do it every day.
Yeah.
Play the hits. When in doubt, like just the other day, it was like, let's do a video on Bijan and we'll talk about him. And it was like, absolutely easy money.
Yes.
If you and I thought talking about the horns down thing had any real juice to it, we just do videos on it.
Yeah. All day, twice a week at least.
We didn't even mention it last week.
No.
When it happened, it was like, that is so off the radar. It's a great point. Like I just someone asked me a buy or sell question and my 10 thoughts from the weekend is like, does just the topic make Texas look bad and kind of, like criers? And it was like, yeah. And it really isn't fair because I don't see Texas people driving this bus. It's like every year it happens in Dallas. And it's like, you do get the sense that maybe the conference is always trying so hard to make Texas happy on some level.
Yeah.
They do these things where you're just like, where Texas would be like, no, just stop. Oh, damn. Now we got to talk about it. Like,
yeah.
Can I give you one more overreaction?
Yeah, go for it.
Up? Someone took me to task in the comments section.
Uh-oh.
In the last video for talking over you. And I just want to say that I made a real effort to not talk over you. And I believe the only time I talked over you today when we were joking about something and I yelled it out, I shouted out a 2-word response to something that you said and you stopped briefly and realized, oh, I erupted, but I didn't. So I just want to say I'm patting myself on the back. Patting myself on the back. I was less of a ball hog today.
You should, yeah. Well, they said it in every video catch. So glad you finally got that around to the comments. Appreciate it. It's look, here's the deal. Here's the good part. This is what I would say. It's conversation that you're not getting from anybody else in any other source at this moment. Constant conversation, like trying to commit ourselves to doing this like 5 days a week. And come up with topics every single day, especially in the off season. Like when we get to the regular season, it'll be easy, but coming up with topics all the time. So I will say it does make it. And sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'll just go ahead and there's been sometimes like I'll just get on Amazon and just go see what's in my cart. But I appreciate it. Congratulations, Ketch.
The thing is, this is like a barbershop.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody at the barbershop waiting for someone to stop talking before they start talking.
No, you're right. All right. By the way, I got one more overreaction.
Yes.
Last one's a controversial one.
Uh-oh.
But I'm going to say it anyway.
On the way out?
On the way out. I put this on Twitter yesterday, so you know where I'm going with this. And I got a firestorm of response. Majority good. A couple of people are negative. Man, Space Jam is just a movie for kids. Can everyone just stop tripping on it? My kid, 8 years old, thinks it's the best movie he has ever seen in his life. And all the comparisons between the first and the latter, like, it's for kids. Like, there's so many things in this thing that are just not for me, right? Not fashion channels or whatever, that's not me. So I don't criticize it, and I can look at it. But man, I just don't, what I don't get is just the uproar over a freaking kids movie. I just relax. Like, kids love it. You want to bring my kid in? I can bring my kid in. I can show him and tell him, like, he just thinks it's amazing. Max, come here. Hurry. Faster.
He's like, Dad, I'm on the iPad. Leave me alone.
Come here. What do you think about Space Jams?
Amazing.
What made it amazing?
That they got sucked into a video game.
Okay. Is that the best movie you've ever seen?
Yes.
Okay. You can go.
Okay.
Hi, Max.
Say hi.
Hi.
Oh, I hate
it. All right, you go.
You can go now. My daughter loved it too.
Yeah.
And she's not a big basketball fan. Like when a movie first started out, no spoiler alert, but the cartoons aren't in it immediately.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, this might be too slow before it gets good. But my daughter loved it. It's just, hey, people got a LeBron thing. Yeah. And we're not going to do a LeBron video. I'm just going to say people got a LeBron thing. Like some people have a Geoff Ketchum thing. And sometimes it's never actually about like anything that you ever do. It's about something else that you once did. So a lot of people aren't going to like Space Jam 2 because they just don't like LeBron James. And, you know, I mean, I feel you.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed Space Jams 2. I did.
I too.
I liked it when Granny came on the court. Spoiler alert, but like Granny Hoops. I liked it. So, you know, anyway, look, for myself and Anwar Richardson, hit the like button if you watch Space Jams 2 over the weekend. And if you won't watch Space Jams 2 for any reason whatsoever, you can hit the like button too. Get it both ways. You subscribe. Likers, like. Haters, subscribe. It'll work out really well that way, I promise. For myself and Anwar Richardson, we'll do this again on Tuesday. We will do a buy or sell edition of the YouTube channel either today or like Wednesday. We'll take your questions, whatever they may be. We will answer it. Who knows? Maybe we'll even figure out the live thing that we couldn't get on last week because YouTube or whoever was just being weird.
It was weird, bad connection at AT&T Stadium. Oh. It was a horrible thing. But yes, I'll test it. I'll do a test run this week, and then one of these days. And don't forget, we got to go down to a wedding, so we're gonna make sure. But we may do one of our things from my hotel room in Tampa, by the water.
Don't go anywhere. It'll be going
you
down
can look in the
in
background.
This
what
weekend.
Anwar's been doing.
Look, for myself and Anwar and Maximus, who came in and livened up the video at the end. He was the cherry on top of the sundae. We'll do it again tomorrow. You guys take care of each other. Later.